there's news coming out that should excite every single Arsenal fan. I think there's a little bit of reading between the lines that need to happen, but if things play out like I imagine they will, then I still think Arsenal can have an exceptional summer transfer window, and I'm excited about it. I want to speak to you guys about why. Also, I want to have a quick word on the game today at the end of the video. Before we get into it though, just very quickly, do me a favour. Hit like on this video. So what am I talking about? Why should everyone get excited? I mean, the main reason is because Fabio Vieira is set to leave Arsenal, but that's not the reason. Like, the reason is if Fabio Vieira leaves, we need to bring in a replacement. If Nketiah leaves, we need to bring in a replacement. We saw ML Smith-Rowe go, and the discussion when ML Smith-Rowe went is we don't necessarily need to bring a player in because maybe Ethan Nwaneri will accept those minutes that ML Smith-Rowe had. So I expect Ethan Nwaneri is looking at this situation and saying, oh my God, all these players are leaving. My game time, like Mikel Arteta, definitely trusts me. Like, I'm going to get a lot more game time. So that's what I think about Ethan Nwaneri. I expect him to get a lot more game time. And it definitely shows the faith that Mikel Arteta has in this young player. So that's exciting because Nwaneri is a player so many of us have been speaking about for so long on this channel. We've said how exciting Ethan Nwaneri is, how exciting it is to maybe see him being given an opportunity. And I think that's what we're going to see. But we also need to look at the Fabio Vieira, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson situation and say, guys, there's 3 or 4 players that have left. We're only bringing Marino in. Like, where's the attacking reinforcements? And that's why I'm excited, because you let all those guys go. We have to bring in someone else. Now, we saw in Mikel Arteta's press conference that it probably won't be a striker. Like he said, I think we're happy with our options at the minute. We've got Jesus, we've got Havertz, and we've got Trossard. All of those that can play that position. So we're not really, or we haven't been focusing on strengthening that position. And I smelled a slight, not a lie, but maybe a bit of misinformation, because we know Arsenal went in for Benjamin Sesko early in the window. So for him to say we've not considered strengthening that striker position is a bit, but not Pinocchio, because we know he did. So if there's an opportunity for a striker to come up, does that still mean that Arsenal would maybe be interested in entering the market? I definitely think it's an exciting thing that can happen. I think we need to be open to the fact that it can. It seems to me if Arsenal was to strengthen this team, it will probably be on a winger. And that leaves you asking what kind of winger, like what wingers are out there that could strengthen this Arsenal team? Do we need to bring in a first 11? You'd look at it and say, unless it's a world-class option on that left-hand side, like a Nico Williams, then I don't really see Arsenal bringing in another backup left winger like a Raheem Sterling's being mentioned in recent media outlets. And I'm thinking, I can't really see that deal happening. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. Would you even take Raheem Sterling at Arsenal? I would, like I said, I'm not sure I would even take that deal because I don't think he strengthens our first 11. And we don't need strength in depth on that left-hand side. If anything, we need it on the right-hand side. We saw Mikel Arteta wanted to play Fabio Vieira on that right-hand side. So if there was going to be any backup to Bukayo Saka this season, it would seem it would be Fabio Vieira. But what's just happened? He shipped him out. So it's not going to be Fabio Vieira. So I'm looking at it and saying, who are we going to go for? There needs to be some reinforcements. And that's what I'm excited about. I can't bring you the name. I can't bring you the exact guy that Arsenal were looking at and saying this is what will happen when Fabio Vieira goes to Porto and Nketiah goes to Nottingham Forest. But there has to be someone. We would be extremely short in those forward areas if we don't bring in replacements. Like, imagine we let Smith-Rowe go, we bring Marino in. Okay, we promote Nwaneri. We're letting Fabio Vieira go. We're letting Eddie Nketiah go. We're letting Reece Nelson go. We know Arteta wasn't happy to give them a massive amount of minutes, but they definitely all played game time last season. So you have to replace those players. All it would take is one injury. Like, look at Odegaard, for example. Like, he's world class anyway, so it's going to be difficult for anyone to drop in and play that position. But now with Fabio Vieira going, he was probably the guy that you would look at and say, right, he's probably the closest match to Odegaard. Like, if we lose Odegaard, touch wood, that never happens, by the way. But if we was to lose him for a few games, I would imagine it would be Fabio Vieira to come in and play that position. Like, let me know, who else is there now after Fabio Vieira's gone to play that position? Some people would say Nwaneri, and I get it. But is the drop-off too much? Like, when you're going for a Premier League, when you're going for a Champions League, if the worst comes to the worst, can you rely on Nwaneri in that number 10 position? Some of you might be of the persuasion of saying, yeah, I think he's good enough to just let him play. But I'm saying we need backup options that are going to be strong enough to come in and fill in. Now, some people might say, I think Gabriel Jesus can do a shift in that position, of which I agree, by the way. I think at times Gabriel Jesus is underappreciated slightly. I know he draws frustration. I know some people get so annoyed with him at times, but we can't deny that he's a brilliant player. So the only thing I can think of, if we're not going to bring a striker in, like maybe it is Jesus that will be that right-wing backup option. That's something we've had a discussion on. We've had the discussion in the comment section so many times. Saka, if he can't play every single game, use Jesus on the right. Maybe Mikel Arteta will be looking at that, but I would still be bringing in another guy. Would it be Raheem Sterling? No, not in my opinion. The only kind of left winger I would go for, like I said, is Nico Williams. Maybe that deal can happen. I don't know. I've not heard anything too major on it to maybe bring you some information to say this is the guy that Arsenal are going to go for. Like the news we've heard, it will be Gyökeres. And now we're hearing rumours, again, it could be Osimhen. But then Mikel Arteta coming out and saying we're not really in the market for a striker. Is he just doing that to like you know what Mikel Arteta's like in his press conferences? He'll say one thing and then the other thing's happening over here. So you can never take what he says with 100% certainty, because he definitely plays a game, as you should as a manager. There's always mind games being played and he's a master at it, as is Pep, as is others as well. So I don't know what Mikel Arteta's plan is in those forward areas. I just hope that there is something. Like there needs to be a plan going forward. If we're losing, like I said, Fabio Vieira, Nketiah, Smith Rowe, maybe a Reece Nelson as well, there needs to be, I would say, 2 attacking players. But there at least needs to be one that you're willing to give a fair amount of minutes to. I don't know. That's my opinion. Let me know your guys. Right, so we'll have a quick word on the game today. Arsenal versus Villa, or Villa versus Arsenal. Villa Park. I cannot wait for it. Am I nervous? Slightly, but I think like a lot of people are buying into the fact that Arsenal couldn't beat them home and away last season, and it's kind of being misrepresented from what I'm seeing. Like I'm watching videos and I'm reading articles, and it didn't really play out the way a lot of people are dressing it up as. Like people are saying Aston Villa dominated Arsenal. Like that didn't happen. Like it's just not true. Aston Villa didn't dominate Arsenal. Arsenal had their fair share of chances in both games, I would say. So, like, people saying that Arsenal are going to go to Villa Park and Villa are going to dominate, I don't see Villa as being a dominant team. Like I said, they played West Ham last week. They had less possession in that game. So, if Arsenal go there, I don't expect Villa to have 65 possession and Arsenal to all of a sudden set up to be a counter-attacking team. I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think Arsenal are going to have plenty of the ball. I think there's some discussions on a couple of the positions. We've done a bit more of a breakdown in yesterday's video. So after this, if you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. But look, there's 2 positions I want to focus on in this video. We had the central midfield discussion yesterday on whether it should be Thomas Partey or Jorginho. Today I want to have the discussion on left back and left wing, because those are 2 positions. How many times did we have that discussion last season? And now coming into the new season, we're having the same discussion. I think as the season plays out, that discussion will become less and less, especially around that left back position, because we've brought in players that can now plug that hole. Like we've got Calafiori and Timber back. Zinchenko is there as well. A lot of people are saying they expect Zinchenko to start in this game, and it wouldn't shock me because it's obviously what Mikel Arteta felt most comfortable with in using on the first game. Zinchenko started. He did come off into the second half as a substitute, and we saw jurrien Timber come on, and I loved what I saw from jurrien Timber. Some people are saying, what are we doing? Like, why are we mucking about? If Calafiori got brought in to play that position, like he's not injured, he's well adapted now. Just play him. Like we need to eventually start playing him there. And I also understand that discussion. If Calafiori is your left back, I think there does need to be a sort of a small bedding in period. But we've seen the qualities that this player does have. And if that is going to be your long-term option, maybe you should play it. I understand that discussion. For me, I go jurrien Timber because, like, I'm sure you guys have seen the training clips as well. Did you see what Arsenal were putting out? Like, the guy plays like a winger. Now, I'm excited to see what he can offer that left-hand side, which was a concern area, I would say, for parts of last season. We saw that left-hand side maybe slightly more neglected than it was 2 seasons ago. I think all the stats would show you that as well. Arsenal's play predominantly comes from the right-hand side. Now, I know there are varying factors in why that will happen, because Odegaard plays over that side, because Bukayo Saka and Ben White play over that side, and they create the triangles that is so effective. So naturally, when midfielders get the ball, they're going to want to play it out to those areas because there's proof out there that it works. So I understand that most of the play will go down that right-hand side. But if you get the right players in those left-hand side of the pitches, like, it can shift. It can give you the option of saying, no, we know we can use it on the right-hand side, but now we've got this set up on the left-hand side that can be equally effective. Once we get Marino or Rice in that left 8 with a Trossard or a Martinelli, with Calafiori or Timber especially, I'm excited to see what happens. That's why in this game, I go for jurrien Timber. Like, I'm so excited to see him. Like, did you see the training video where he took like 3 or 4 players on? And I'm thinking, if I didn't know this player's position, I would look at it. I'd look at his build. I'd look at his attributes and say, he looks like a winger. Now, I know it's a 10-second clip and anyone can look good for 10 seconds, but it's not just that clip. I saw him in the last game. I was excited by what he'd done. There was one point he was playing at left back and he was charging towards the right-hand side touchline, like the penalty box, taking on 3 players and then nearly chopped it back. So I'd look at that and say, if he can kind of use those skills, use those attributes in that bottom left-hand side of the pitch or pushing forward into that more forward area of the left-hand pitch, imagine the kind of plays that Arsenal could see down that left-hand side. Like, the type plays him and Trossard would be able to produce on that left-hand side, I think would be mind-blowing. I'd done my starting lineup that I would go yesterday, and I said Trossard in that left-wing position because I think the form has to suggest that this is the more stable player. Like, I hope Martinelli gets given the opportunity, by the way. I think form for form, when they're both at 100%, Martinelli's the better player. Martinelli's the younger profile. But I think using the evidence that's out there over the last 12 months, Trossard's in better form. I would love Martinelli to come back to form. I think he's going to play him as well because I think Arteta knows and understands exactly that. Like, if you can have one of these players playing at 100%, you would pick it to be Martinelli because he's younger, he's worth more, he has more longevity in this Arsenal setup, in this Arsenal system. So, of course, if I want one of these two to produce outstanding results, I want it to be Martinelli. So I expect him to play Martinelli. I don't know. It's a big season for Martinelli. We had this conversation. We've spoke about it so many times. So many of us say on form, Martinelli might be our most dangerous player. Like, Saka's our most prolific player. But in terms of dangerous, getting your head down, running past the player, being the most direct, and his finishing is underrated, we need to get that Martinelli back because when he's on form and Saka's on form, like, they're unstoppable. And it doesn't matter who you've got up front when you've got players like that. They will get the service. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's going to be Martinelli that starts this game, but I would probably go Trossard. I don't know. I would be happy to see both of them, but I want to see Timber in that left-back position. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts on the fact that Fabio Vieira is leaving. Does that mean Arsenal have to bring in 1 attacker or 2 attackers? What's your thoughts? Remember, Eddie Nketiah is going to be leaving. Fabio Vieira. There's talks of Reece Nelson as well. Can Arsenal just bring in 1 midfielder and not bring in any other attacker? I would be shocked if that happens. Let me know your thoughts. I still think we need 1 attacker, maybe 2. Let me know how many you think we need. Thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. Before you go, like I said, just do me a favor. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just hit like on this video and subscribe, and I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.